Welcome, everyone. We're going to give it just one more moment for people in the waiting room to make their way in, and then we'll get started. But thank you for joining us. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So, welcome, everyone, to this Shaping Tomorrow Together kickoff webinar. We are thrilled to launch this exciting initiative and tell you what it's all about. I'm Barry Talenti, and I serve as the Society's Executive Vice President of Advocacy and Healthcare Access Together. So I know Shaping Tomorrow Together, the MS Externally Led Patient Focused Drug Development Initiative, is kind of a mouthful. And on today's call, we're going to share what this really is, why we're so excited to have this initiative for the MS community, and the different ways for each of you to be involved and share your voice and experiences of living with MS or of being a care partner. So first, we have a few housekeeping items to get to so the webinar runs as smoothly as possible. So here are our Zoom logistics. Everyone is currently on mute for the presentation portion of our call, and then we'll open things up for questions towards the end. You can put questions in the Q&A box throughout, which is great because then you can just put your question in and not have to try and remember it later on. Or when we get to Q&A, you can raise your hand and get unmuted and ask your question. Our chat is open throughout, as I see many of you have already found, and we love that. So you can connect with each other through the chat. We do have some guidelines around our virtual engagement together so that this is a positive, welcoming environment where everyone feels valued and respected. And I think our next slide has our virtual engagement guidelines. And these are also in the chat. So we just want to make sure that we're respectful of each other's opinions and shared experiences. Please don't share or post external links. We want to make sure that we're vetting anything. Um, Avoid giving medical advice. And then you see some of the other things on here as well. And for personal connections and support that you may need, please do reach out to a society navigator. All right, so we're going to take a moment to ground us in the Society's vision, mission, and commitment to inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. So, our vision is a world free of MS, and the Society's mission: we will cure MS while empowering people affected by MS to live their best lives. And our commitment to inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility: we amplify the voices of all people affected by MS and celebrate our differences in the drive to end MS. We affirm the space for everyone to express their perspectives, fueling our vision with innovative ideas and insights. We commit to advancing inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility within our workforce and across the MS movement. So I want to introduce you to today's speakers. You've already met me, and I will be joined by Nicole Bashi, the Society's Director of Regulatory Affairs, who's leading this initiative. And we're also thrilled to be joined by Kim McCleary, the founder and CEO of the Kith Collective, a consulting practice that we're working with on shaping tomorrow together. Kim is focused on accelerating the adoption of patient-centered practices, and she's been at the forefront of patient engagement for more than 30 years. So now we're going to go ahead and jump in. So today we'll share information to these key questions that I'm sure are on your mind. So what exactly is patient-focused drug development? And what is the Shaping Tomorrow Together initiative? How does the meeting work? And how can I participate? So we've already started that participation because you're already here finding out more about the initiative, and we're thrilled that you are. So let's start by talking about the FDA. On the next slides, One more slide. There we go. So, the US Food and Drug Administration's primary mission is to protect public health by ensuring the safety, efficacy, and security of various products that Americans use every day. And I'm sure you're familiar with many of these. So, the FDA's main functions include ensuring food safety, so overseeing food production, packaging, and labeling to make sure that things are safe for consumption, protecting public health, enforcing regulations on products that can affect public health, such as tobacco and vaccines, monitoring consumer products like cosmetics, dietary supplements, and pet food. And most importantly, for this initiative and for people affected by MS, regulating drugs and medical devices. So the FDA reviews and approves drugs and medical devices before they can be sold to the public. And this includes ensuring that these are effective and do not cause harm. So the FDA started the Patient Focused Drug Development Initiative back in 2012. At first, meetings started as FDA organized events. But after realizing that there were many diseases and conditions that needed to be addressed, in 2015, the FDA announced the opportunity for externally led patient focused drug development meetings. So, this is what the EL means, externally led, in the EL-PFDD. So, EL-PFDD meetings are planned and hosted by patient organizations, in our case, by the National MS Society, with the input from FDA staff. And we use the process that's been established by FDA led PFDD meetings as a model. So, following some initial conversations with the FDA last summer, the Society submitted an EL-PFDD application, which was accepted by the FDA earlier this year. So, what are these meetings and why did the Society apply to host one? We know that those affected by MS are the experts in living with MS. You know what it's like to live with this disease, and your lived experience is so valuable to share with the FDA, researchers, clinicians, and those who are developing MS treatments. You're the ones who know things like how MS affects your daily life. Has it affected your ability to work, your mobility? You know the burdens that MS puts in the way of living your best life. Do you require a care partner? Do you reschedule activities due to fatigue or other symptoms? What's working and not working with your DMT? Was it a struggle to find a DMT that works for you? Does your DMT cause side effects that are hard to live with? Or do you wish you had medications beyond DMTs to address symptoms like fatigue or visual issues that you experience? And what's your wish list for new treatments? Do you wish your DMT was an oral instead of an injection or an infusion? Do you wish treatments were safer and less risky, or are you willing to tolerate more risk? Do you wish there were treatments to repair damage from MS? And so much more. So, on our next slide, while we'll be talking about many things related to your daily life with MS, we will not be talking about those things on the right side. We'll not be talking about the cost of your drugs, insurance coverage issues, politics, or current government legislation. I know many of you are MS activists who've participated in events like the Public Policy Conference or in district meetings during August recess, and you've shared your experiences and concerns about these issues. These issues are incredibly important, and the Society will continue to advocate for them alongside you. But we want to make clear that this type of meeting is not a forum for those discussions. The PFDD is a distinct type of meeting, and those issues related to cost and access fall outside of the purview of the FDA. So you may be wondering what actually comes from these meetings. So we wanted to share two examples of some outcomes from previous patient-focused drug development meetings within other disease states. So on the left, following an FDA-led meeting on narcolepsy, the company that had developed the mainstay therapy heard from many patients that they were unable to take the treatment because they also have high blood pressure. So, a low sodium version of the medication was developed and approved by the FDA. Additionally, that mainstay medication also required people taking it to wake up in the middle of the night to take a second dose. Not surprisingly, people were not a big fan of that. And so another company developed a long acting form of the drug, which was then approved by the FDA. And our second example on the right is related to eczema. In the 2021 externally led patient focused drug development meeting on eczema, this helped the FDA better understand the many burdens of the condition beyond itch as a primary symptom. And so there was light shed on the inadequate available treatments. And this meeting prepared the FDA and the community for a new era of eczema treatments that include oral and injected medications, where the standard of care had previously been creams and ointments applied to the skin. And now I'm going to turn things over to Nicole to talk specifically about our MS initiative.
Thanks, Barry. So, as was mentioned before, earlier this year, the FDA approved the Society's request for an externally led patient focused drug development meeting. Over the past several months, the Society has been working with the FDA and other MS coalition organizations to plan the Shaping Tomorrow Together initiative. This is really exciting, and the MS community has never had an opportunity to share what daily life is like with MS with the people who create and regulate the treatments that you rely on. This initiative consists of a few different components, which I'll review over the next several slides. Shaping Tomorrow Together isn't just a one-day meeting. It's an entire initiative. Here's an overview of how you can participate, and over the next few slides, I'll break down all of the components. First, you can check out our website and register for the virtual meeting. Then complete a survey about your symptoms, the DMT or support drugs that you take to manage MS, and what you hope future treatments will address. We encourage you to share the meeting information and survey with others in the MS community. Then please join us for October 29th's virtual meeting. Finally, the Voice of the Patient report will be published in spring 2026. All right, so let's break down all of these components. First is the website, www.nationalmssociety.org/Shaping Tomorrow Together. This is your home base for the Shaping Tomorrow initiative. On the website, you'll find a link to the survey and registration for the virtual meeting. In November, the website will house the recording of the meeting. And in spring 2026, the Voice of the Patient report will be posted here. The Society partnered with the Accelerated Care Project to develop a survey for people affected by MS, individuals living with MS, their family members, and their care partners, to share perspectives and experiences with the FDA, researchers, and clinicians. A group of people living with MS reviewed the survey to make sure it's asking questions that are important to those affected by MS and that the wording is clear. The survey collects a lot of information about symptoms, their daily impact on your life, and how individuals manage their condition through medical and supportive treatments. These are the topics that the FDA is most interested in hearing from you about. Your responses to the survey will help them better understand what matters most to people living with MS, their family, and their care partners. This information will inform the decisions made by the FDA staff, drug companies, and other researchers regarding new MS therapies. We will share the preliminary survey results at the October 29th meeting. The final results of the survey will be published in the Voice of the Patient report, which I'll share more information about later in this webinar. Although we do not want the survey to be a burden to those taking it, since we're asking so many different questions about different areas of life related to MS, the survey is rather long. So please set aside some time when you can sit down to take the survey. And if you need a break while taking it, you can save your responses and return to them later. Additionally, while you can take the survey on a mobile device, it's best to use your laptop or a desktop computer. And again, you can get to the survey from the website, www.nationalmssociety.org/shaping tomorrow together. And of course, you can find the registration link for our main event. The meeting will be live streamed on October 29th from 10 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. If you're not able to join us live, the meeting will be recorded and posted on the website. Next, we'll talk about how this meeting will work. This meeting is very different from other society events that you may be used to. Because we want anyone affected by MS to participate in this meeting, regardless of where you live or if you can travel, we've chosen a hybrid approach. The in-person meeting will take place in College Park, Maryland, near the FDA campus. There will be about 70 people in the room, and in-person attendance is by invitation only. This was done for several reasons. The first is for practical space and budget constraints. And the second is that we really want to show the FDA and drug developers what the population of individuals affected by MS looks like, and have the in-person audience reflect the population affected by MS. We're being very deliberate in ensuring that different ages, a variety of racial and ethnic groups, and geographic diversity is represented to show that anyone can get MS. Additionally, we want to be representative of a wide variety of different MS symptoms and types of MS, like relapse and remitting and primary progressive. Because this is a hybrid meeting, everyone affected by MS can participate. We'll be live streaming this meeting, and you'll be able to participate virtually. We'll go over how the interactive live stream will work in a minute. And again, if you're not able to participate on October 29th, you'll be able to watch the entire recording of the meeting following the meeting. I would now like to turn things over to Kim. Kim, we're so happy to be working with you since you have the expertise with this type of meeting. Kim will be moderating and facilitating the meeting. So I want to give you the opportunity to meet her, and I'll have her explain how the hybrid meeting will work.
Thank you so much, Nicole. I'm really thrilled to be working with you and Barry and the Society's team, and most of all, the MS community, to foster a unique and impactful conversation. And as you've heard from Barry and Nicole, I've had the opportunity to work on these PFDD meetings since the very first one was held in 2013. And I'm very passionate about the opportunity this meeting series has created for individuals to voice their lived experience in a way that informs different types of decisions. One thing that FDA and pharmaceutical companies have learned through these meetings is how important it is to hear directly from people directly affected by serious diseases like MS. This was completely missing from their knowledge base as they went into these really important decisions. So with that background, let's talk about the agenda for our meeting on October 29th. And as you've heard, it's quite different from other meetings you may have participated in with the Society. So on that day, the opening session will include a welcome from National MS Society leadership, followed by a speaker from the FDA, Dr. Michelle Campbell, who will describe why FDA has come to value these meetings to inform the work that their teams do. And then next, we'll have a brief overview from a clinical researcher who is expert in MS, who will provide a foundation for understanding the biological underpinnings of MS and how it presents differently in different people. This short talk kind of sets the stage for the main attraction of the meeting, which is hearing from the community, from you. The first major segment of the meeting is dedicated to understanding the lived experience of the symptoms of MS and how they impact daily life, as well as longer-term issues like education, career, family functioning, decisions about family planning, and more. This is where we really get into the thick of what it's like to live with MS. To do that, we'll hear first from 4 to 5 individuals who will prepare 4 to 5 minute descriptions of different aspects of life with MS. We're taking great care to reflect the full breadth of MS through these panelists' remarks. It's a tall order. And after that panel speaks, we then open it up to a group discussion. For those of us old enough to remember Oprah's TV show, it's going to be a lot like that. We'll have individuals in the room in Silver Spring contribute their responses to a series of questions. We'll be bringing in comments from the live chat, like is happening right now, among those viewing the live stream. We'll also tap into written comments that are submitted before and during the meeting, as well as responses from the survey. We're also anticipating having people call into the meeting. So we're really using kind of every technology to make sure we engage with the broad MS community. Now, after we cover the symptoms and their daily impacts, we'll pause for a brief lunch break. When we return, we'll start the second segment of the meeting over on the right-hand side of the slide, which is dedicated to current and future treatment options. The structure will be the same as the first segment, with a clinical researcher providing a short overview of the current treatment landscape to ground that discussion. Then we'll hear again from a panel of 4 to 5 more MS community members who've prepared in advance to present their experiences. And then we'll have another facilitated group discussion, again engaging the entire participating audience in the room, viewing the live stream, so written comments, survey comments, etc. So with that understanding of the meeting structure, here you can see the different topics that we'll cover in each of those 2 meeting segments. These topics are at the top interest to FDA and pharma companies who are developing MS therapies or delivering therapies that can already be prescribed by physicians. You can see on the left the topics associated with symptoms and daily impacts. These include how MS affects your life in a very inclusive way. Understanding how this evolves across the lifespan is a very important element of these ELPFDD meetings. On the right, you see topics for the second segment. And think about this as the good, what's working, the bad, what's not, and the ugly, what you wish were different about your treatment options. This discussion section will be very informative for people working on new medications so that their plans can more closely align with what matters most to the MS community's needs. This includes some topics related to clinical trials, which of course are a necessary part of bringing a new treatment from the lab to patients. Now, I can say there have been nearly 150 of these PFDD meetings hosted by either the FDA or ELPFDD meetings hosted by patient advocacy organizations. So we are building on that strong foundation of experience. This is a bit of a repeat from material that Barry covered, but you'll see on the left that the core objective of this meeting will be to articulate from the community perspective what unmet needs remain. This is very important in the setting of a disease like MS, where there are already many FDA-approved treatment options. And I will say, at the beginning of this series, back in 2012, 2013, the FDA almost put a checkbox by every disease that had an approved therapy and thought that took care of things. Well, you and I know better than that. And so it's really amazing that this has really expanded to cover diseases where there's an array of treatments that may or may not be working for patients, and those diseases for which there aren't any existing therapies. So, as Barry indicated earlier, we must focus our time with this particular audience, which is the FDA and industry primarily, on the PFDD topics on the left and not stray too much into one treatment or another, trying to get medical advice about what treatments you should seek out or access issues, including pricing and coverage. So with that background, we're very much looking forward to this unparalleled opportunity for the MS community to raise its individual and collective voices to shape tomorrow together. As a reminder, during the first 2 facilitated discussion periods of the meeting, we're planning to use several different formats to hear from, engage, share experiences, aspirations, and priorities. First, as you've heard, there'll be a group of people affected by MS in various ways that reflects the broader community who'll be present in the meeting room in Silver Spring, Maryland. We'll have mic runners in the room to move the conversation around and capture different views and perspectives. For those participating online through the live stream, there'll be a moderated live chat, and we'll tap into that conversation to bring it into the broadcast. People will have an opportunity to submit written comments to meeting questions and topics in advance of the meeting as well as during it. And we'll also use some of the open text comments from the survey as layers to the conversation. And then finally, we'll have an open phone line for callers to share their thoughts. And that line will be staffed and we'll bring in a few callers during the live meeting. One of the greatest challenges of these meetings is getting to every person who has a vital contribution to make through all these forms of sharing. We'll also have the opportunity to include these contributions in the voice of the patient report that you'll hear about shortly. I know you can, hope you can see how interactive we're trying to make this, how broadly we hope to engage through this unique event. And with that, I'll pass it back to Nicole, who will share what your next steps might be to make sure your voice is heard. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Kim. Again, we're so excited to be working with you and your team. So remember, you can register for the virtual meeting on the website, www.nationalmssociety.org/shapingtomorrowtogether. And next slide, there we go. Following the meeting, we will compile the comments and survey results into the Voice of the Patient report. Following each patient-focused drug development meeting, a summary is included in the Voice of the Patient report. This slide shows a few excerpts from the eczema meeting titled More Than Skin Deep. These reports are crucial to informing the FDA and drug developers about the realities of living with a disease, including its impact on daily life, symptom burden, and what patients are hoping to see in future treatments. In essence, sorry, my camera's not on. There we go. These reports are crucial for informing the FDA and drug developers about the realities of living with a disease, including its impact on daily life, symptom burden, and what patients hope to see in future treatments. In essence, these reports serve as a vital bridge between patients and the regulatory and pharmaceutical communities, ensuring that the patient voices are heard and considered in the development of new therapies. Key aspects of the Voice of the Patient report include patient testimony. The report includes direct quotes and narratives from patients and care partners who participated in the meeting or submitted comments online. A focus on lived experience. The report highlights the emotional, social, and functional impact of the disease on individuals and their family. Symptom prioritization. It details the most burdensome symptoms and challenges faced by patients, helping to guide research and development efforts. Treatment goals. The report outlines patient-defined goals for future therapies, such as symptom relief, improved quality of life, and disease modification. The FDA uses these reports to better understand patient needs and priorities when we're reviewing the next group of drug applications and developing regulatory guidance. These reports are made public, ensuring transparency and allowing for the broad dissemination of patient perspectives. The report will be published in spring 2026 and will be available on our website. I know that we went over a lot of information today, so let's go back to the graphic that shows all the ways you can participate in this initiative. Remember, first check out the website, www.nationalmssociety.org/shapingtomorrowtogether to register for the virtual meeting on October 29th. From the website, you can find the link to complete the survey. Sharing is caring, so please share the meeting information with others. Remember to join us on October 29th for the virtual meeting, and come back to the website in spring 2026 when the Voice of the Patient report will be published. Don't worry, we'll send you reminders once you're registered for the meeting. It takes a village to make big events happen. So I'd like to take a minute to thank members of the MS Coalition. I'd like to also thank our partner organization, the Accelerated Care Project, for taking the lead on creating the survey. And thank you to our collaborating organizations. They'll be helping to widely share the survey link and other information about the initiative. And finally, I'd like to thank our sponsors for their generous contributions. Our champion sponsor, Sanofi, and our contributing sponsors, Biogen, Bristol Myers Squibb, Genentech, and the International Progressive MS Alliance. Again, I know we've gone over a lot of information and that this is a unique opportunity. I'm sure you have questions, so I'd like to open it up to questions now.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for sticking with us, and thank you, Nicole and Kim, for your presentations and comments. We do have quite a few questions. I'm going to help navigate us through them. We do have a number of questions asking specifically around how people attending the meeting in person were chosen or how to go about that. So Kim, I'm wondering if we can start with you around sort of the philosophy of picking people who were in the room, and then Nicole and I can get more specific.
So, kind of at the core of the philosophy is, and it's a tough thing to do, making sure that those who are in the room are reflective and representative of the MS community as a whole. And we all recognize that that is across many different dimensions, not only the type of MS that individuals have, but where they are in their life journey, age, race, geography, socioeconomic status, level of disability, different ways that MS has impacted their lives. So we are really constructing a pretty sophisticated matrix to make sure that we bring as many of those attributes to the room as we can, knowing we have the amazing surround sound of the community that will participate in all the other ways we've described.
Great. Thanks, Kim. Nicole, what do you want to add?
Yeah, I'll just add that we're really trying to be deliberate and showing that MS can affect anyone. So we're trying to show that this isn't just a disease of 40-year-old white women. So trying to show different ages, different cultural backgrounds, different ethnic and racial diversity, and different stages of the disease. We know that this disease affects everyone differently. So we want to show, people maybe have cognitive side effects or fatigue or mobility concerns. We really want the room to reflect the entire picture of MS. So that's why we're being really deliberate with our in-person invites. And
Great.
again, for space and budget constraints.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole and Kim. So I'll just add to address a couple of the questions that I saw related to the invite process. We do, as Nicole said, look to represent the entire spectrum of MS. It is very heterogeneous. So we are representing all age groups. There are some specific questions around the 65 and older population. I know that's a population usually not included in clinical trials, so some very different concerns, and we do have that age range represented. Um, and I think we've also had some questions that people didn't quite hear secondary progressive MS. This meeting is inclusive of all kinds of MS, age 18 and over. This is specific to the adult population in MS and for all kinds of MS. So just if you didn't hear secondary progressive, we are sorry for that, but it is part of the population that is represented in the meeting and the survey, and we definitely want to hear from you and hear your input. Um, We do have a hand raised and a question from Elizabeth Hess. Elizabeth, are you able to unmute yourself?
Did I?
You did. We can hear you.
Okay. My question is really why cost has been excluded from the left-hand side of the chart, because the cost of MS treatment is certainly a huge impact on the decision of individuals to try to use a treatment. And
Yeah.
if the treatment is too cost prohibitive, it won't be used. So no matter how effective it is, if it's not cost effective, it won't address the issues of many people.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Elizabeth. We know that cost is a big concern for people with MS, and that is absolutely a barrier to people taking medication. It's not included in this because cost of medications is not within the purview of the FDA. So when the FDA reviews a drug to decide if they're going to approve it, they're looking at safety of the medication and they're looking at efficacy. How well does it work? Maybe how well does it work compared to what's already on market, but they don't look at cost. And oftentimes, actually, always the cost of a medication is not publicly announced until after an FDA approval. And so that's why cost is not within this specific meeting, but of course is one of the things that we pay quite a lot of attention to through our MS Society advocacy and healthcare access work, and that we're addressing through other avenues. So we're going to move on to a few other questions that have come in through the chat. One question was if the in-person invitees are being selected from the survey participants. So Nicole, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so the survey is really being used to, number one, inform the discussion topics at the October 29th meeting, and number two, to be published in the Voice of the Patient report. We encourage everyone affected by MS to take the survey, but your participation in the survey will not guarantee you a panelist spot. We're again being very deliberate in picking the panel so that we can showcase the entire range of MS, different experiences, different symptoms, different ages, different races, etc. So the survey, while we encourage everyone to take it, will not open up the panel for you.
Great, thanks, Nicole. Just a couple of other things about sort of the in-person meeting and the panelists is while this is a meeting that the National MS Society is leading with the support of Kim and her team and the collaborating and sponsor organizations you saw, we are following a very strict format that's been developed by the FDA. And so there's sort of a limit to the panels. There's one in the morning and one in the afternoon. There's specific topics and guidance that we do have to follow. And so, you may wonder about some decisions around that. And we are following the specific criteria and guidance that is laid out by the FDA. If there's a compelling reason that you feel like you should really be in the room in person, please contact us at msactivist@nmss.org and we will have one-to-one conversations. But as Nicole said, right, we are looking for a cross section of people. So even if you may have a great perspective, we may have already identified someone with a similar perspective. And for budget and room constraints, we are limited to how many people can be in the room. But as Kim said, we are doing a hybrid meeting and looking for ways to make that meeting interactive where we can pull in the perspectives of everyone who's joining via the live stream. And of course, the survey allows us to do that as well. Okay, I'm going to work through some more questions that we have here. We have another question that came in around exactly how the panelists and attendees were chosen. So generally, these are people who are known to the society that may have worked with us in other ways. We've been having some one-to-one conversations as well, again, to make sure we understand the perspectives and experiences of people so we get that cross-section and diversity of MS experience in the room. And also because we do have a limited number of spots in the room, again, we want to make sure that it's people who are comfortable and confident in publicly sharing their MS experience and in public speaking in that format. So it's really important that the people in the room are able to contribute because this is a great opportunity that we have, and we want to make sure to leverage it as much as we can. And again, we can follow up one-to-one with people around some more questions if you have them about that. Okay, I see another question that came in around, are there any concerns about conflict of interest issues with some of the sponsors being pharmaceutical companies who have currently available products and or are working on developing new ones? So Kim, let me turn to you first because you've helped lead and moderate a number of these meetings, and you can talk to sort of what you've seen and some best practices.
Sure. Thanks, Barry. So it is very common for companies that have made investments in a disease space like MS to be very interested in this meeting, and I can say it represents a tremendous value to them and their teams to have this venue that's a public open venue to hear from such a wide range of patients about their experiences. And so they are often, very willing to be involved to provide the financial support that is required to put one of these meetings on. It is more than a 1 year effort, and the society has really poured a lot of man and woman power into the planning of it even before today's launch. And it's going to be an ongoing effort leading up to October 29th and after. One of the guardrails that FDA has placed on financial sponsors of these meetings is that they cannot be involved in any of the planning discussions. They don't get a say over what questions are asked, over which panelists are chosen, over what the voice of the patient report looks like, or the survey questions. They are totally, sort of in it. They're putting their finances forward to help it take place, but they don't have a seat at the table in terms of the planning process. So, and we really hold firm to that principle and feel this is a community meeting and that the financial support is what they can contribute in addition to making sure their teams are participating on October 29th and leverage the experiences they're able to tap into through the meeting, the survey results, and ultimately the voice of the patient.
Thank you, Kim. I'll just add a little bit from the society perspective. So those guardrails from the FDA are also similar to the guideposts that we have at the society related to our advocacy work. So pharmaceuticals companies are not directly involved in our advocacy work. Outside of special events like this meeting, we don't accept pharmaceutical funding that's directly for our policy positions because we want to maintain that appearance and avoid any appearance of impropriety or influence within our policy positions. And so, yes, as Kim said, the companies have not been involved in any of the planning, any of the selection of participants or panelists, or anything else related to the content of the meeting itself. And then I'll just add that, there are issues where we agree with the pharmaceutical companies, and there's issues where we don't. And our belief at the society is that we have those direct conversations and we're very clear about where we agree, where we disagree, what we can work on together, and what we can't. And we approach those with honesty and directness. So we're not concerned about companies as sponsors for all of those reasons that we talked about. But we do appreciate the question and the opportunity to talk through that. All right, so we have a lot more questions. We're going to keep trying to move through them. Okay, I think, Nicole, we're asking for sort of a status update on have panelists been selected yet?
Right. So we are meeting at the society to figure out who would be best on these panels. As Kim said, the panel in the morning is about your current life with MS, your burdens, your struggles, what the disease looks like for you. The afternoon panel is more about your thoughts on your current disease modifying therapy or support treatments and what you want in your a future disease modifying therapy. So we're really trying to make sure that we have people that can speak to those two questions and again bring a variety of perspectives around those two questions. So we're being very deliberate in selecting panelists, and no, we haven't sent out panelist invitations yet, but those will be forthcoming.
Great, thank you, Nicole. We have a question. Since the administration and policies have changed significantly since these initiatives began, is it possible these will affect the follow through for the MS initiative? Now, Kim, let's turn to you to start.
So everybody was a little nervous as all the changes were sort of unfolding at the beginning of this administration about what the continuity of this program would be. And it's been really rewarding to see that, if anything, they have ramped up. There are a number of ELPFDD meetings on the calendar going into the early months of 2026. And the turnaround for applications such as the societies have really kind of gotten quicker and quicker. And I think that demonstrates the ongoing commitment of this administration and the FDA team as a whole, which you may know, doesn't change with every new incoming administration. There are a lot of career civil scientists and civil workers that are there from one administration to the next. And it's really a tribute to the value of these meetings that they have, sustained long beyond what the legal requirement was back in 2020 to hold, or 2019 or 2012, excuse me, all my numbers mixed up. In 2012, they committed to do 20 of these meetings, and they've done nearly 150 of them. So I think that gives this a real place in the evidence base, if you will, of what the FDA reviewers and teams look for now as they are weighing the risks and the benefits and the clinical trial burdens for the potential participants in those studies. So hopefully we can look forward to, not only this meeting, but opportunities for other communities to have their time with the agency.
Great, thank you, Kim. We have a couple of questions asking about the survey and if there are sort of open fields in the survey where people can tell the FDA what they want them to know.
Yeah, Barry, I can take that one. So the way the survey was developed, it was developed with certain static check the box. Are you taking, which DMT are you taking? And then it lists out all the DMTs. So in that example, you would check a box. But then there's also questions that are open fields, like share what a good day looks like for you. What would a bad day look like for you? So there's a mix of both of those question types.
Great, thanks, Nicole. I just saw a question come in around patient privacy concerns. Kim, I wonder if you want to start with that. Before we turn that to you, I'll say people who do participate in the meeting will have to fill out a waiver. It's not to address patient privacy concerns. That's just sort of standard for participating in a meeting, we do want to be able to capture experiences, perspectives, names of people to share within the voice of the patient report. That's really important. But Kim, I wonder if you can talk a little bit more about patient privacy concerns.
So patient privacy concerns would be one of those topics that fall outside of the scope of a meeting like this. Other than to the extent that Barry mentioned, of everybody taking part is sort of giving, their consent to be heard and to express their views. So we won't be talking about, government databases or how health data moves around in the private sector or the interchange of, public and private databases.
Great. Thank you, Kim. We are approaching time, and I've seen a couple of questions asking about, is there a one pager I can share with self-help groups, or how do I share the survey out? So Nicole, why don't you give us some information about that?
Yeah, sure. So, as far as self-help groups, I've been working with our navigator team, and I will be sending out information that can be shared with all self-help group leaders. Um, as far as sharing the website and the survey website, um, if you contact me at our MS advocate email, I can get you language. And if not, you can feel free to just share out the links.
That's great. Thanks, Nicole. And we do have a firsthand report from Carla in the chat, who has already taken the survey and finds it to be a great mix of options and narrative feedback. So we appreciate the firsthand report, Carla, and all of the interest and excitement from the community around this. Another important question around, when does the link go live? Well, Carla already took the survey, so the website is currently live and the survey is live. This meeting with all of you is our official kickoff. We're thrilled that everything's ready to go live, and we encourage you to visit the website and the survey, share them widely, and we hope that you do that. Okay, Kim, Nicole, last questions or thoughts?
I'm just really excited for this initiative. It's a lot of work to bring it all together, but at the same time, it's so great that here we are on launch day and so many people are interested in this initiative. And I'm really excited that we get to participate in this.
And
Thanks, Nicole.
I'd just like to reinforce that we focused a lot on what FDA will hear and what the biopharmaceutical companies in the MS field will hear. But one of the most important things that I know come out of these meetings is the community aspect of it, which the MS community has, in spades. But learning from one another, hearing from one another's, experiences, it can be a real catalyst for, self actualization, as well as helping to identify unmet needs that maybe the society or some of the other partnering organizations can then step in and make progress against. So think of this as, more than just FDA directed, but it's really for the benefit of the community as a whole. And we look forward to, all the ways in which the community will be enriched by the participation of so many people from around the globe.
Great. Thank you so much, Kim. So, Nicole and Kim, thank you for presenting today and answering questions. I know we didn't get to all of the questions. If we didn't get to your question and you still would like an answer, we encourage you to email msactivist@nmss.org, and we can continue a dialogue there. And again, please do visit the website and take the survey, share them widely. And we look forward to continuing to share more about the initiative. Thank you so much for your time today, everyone.